Good morning.
Good morning.
Isaiah is giving us a message of hope and promise, and of good things to come, and to remind us not to be always looking back. And this, he is talking in the voice of God. Isaiah 65, 17 through 25. And this is the King James Version. For behold, I create a new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered nor come to mind. But be ye glad and rejoice forever in that which I create. For behold, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. I will rejoice in Jerusalem, and joy in my people. And the voice of weeping shall be no more heard in her, nor the voice of crying. There should be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner, being 100 years old, shall be cursed. And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat fruit of them. They shall not build and another inhabit. They shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them. And it shall come to pass that before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord. And also from Psalms, this is a song of hope and praise, Psalm 98. Oh, sing unto the Lord a new song, for he hath done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm hath gotten him the victory. The Lord hath made known his salvation. His righteousness hath he openly showed in the sight of the heathen. He hath remembered his mercy and his truth toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the salvation of our God. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all ye earth. Make a loud noise and rejoice and sing praise. Sing unto the Lord with the harp and the voice of song, with trumpets and the sound of cornet. Make a joyful noise before the Lord, the King. Let the sea roar and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. Let the floods clap their hands. Let the hills be joyful together before the Lord. For he cometh to judge the earth. With righteousness shall he judge the world, and the people with equity.
Thank you, Ginny, for sharing those words with us this morning. May God add a blessing to the reading, hearing, and our understanding of God's word. Let us take a moment together. Oh God, as we sit here in this moment and reflect on your word for our lives, still our hearts and our minds that we might open ourselves fully to you, and that we might hear your voice anew, your voice that guides us and holds us fast. Bless our reflections together, our meditations. May we hear your wisdom. Amen. Have you noticed lately signs of Christmas that are already popping up? Yeah. It's even more strange with the weather being like it is right now. I feel like we totally missed it. And like yesterday afternoon when the sun came out, I thought it was spring. When I woke up, I felt like Rip Van Winkle. And all of a sudden, in a new place. And it's not just in stores and advertisements or alerts on our phones and our computer and counting down the days to Christmas already. But the other day, I actually drove past a house that was fully decorated for Christmas. It's not, Halloween just got over and it's not even Thanksgiving yet. You know, I used to say that with a mumble and a grumble at the sight of it. And I still do when it comes to the advertising and commercialism, but I started to see it differently, and maybe you can join me in this thought process. I started to see a little differently when I see people putting up Christmas already. And perhaps it has much to do with our yearning for what Christmas offers. Our yearning for the magic and the mystery and the promise, the kindness that seems to come out of the woodwork at times like Christmas, where people start to put their differences away a little bit, and we focus on the good news, and we focus on the peace, and we focus on the joy and the hope. Gosh, we need that in a world filled with more challenges than any of us can handle alone, for sure. So maybe it's not such a bad thing. Perhaps it helps in these dark days of approaching winter, physically and emotionally, to splash some joy around in hopes that it will lighten the atmosphere, make things feel exciting and new. And I have to admit that seeing candles in the windows, the warm glow, decorations on the doors, it brings a warm welcome. A warmth of spirit to this otherwise challenging issues in our world today that loom before us. Even if it's a little bit too early for my liking, who's to judge, really? Really. If it brings warmth and joy to the soul, then it's not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, the church that I served in Connecticut before I came here, many of you heard me talk about the Mohegan Church. It was owned by the Mohegan tribe, a very little church, little sanctuary that was a treasure to them because it was a mark of them not being removed out west during the federal Indian removal bill back in 1834, I think it was. So this place meant something to them, and there's a lot more we could talk about on that, but it was made up of people who were members of the tribe as well as members in the community, coming together to worship in their own way. Regularly, though, the second hymn in our service, it was much like our service here, the second hymn was usually a hymn of choice, where folks could do as you've done before, lift up a hymn that you're longing to sing and putting it out there. And there was one man who would come with his mother quite often. And when he had a chance, when he was quick enough, he would shout out a song that he'd like to sing. And more times than not, it was something like "Joy to the World" and "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." And we'd sing it right in the middle of July and August in the hot days of summer. And it didn't matter, and why not? Why not? It was refreshing, really, because we don't often get to sing them as much as we'd like to anyway during Christmas. It all goes so fast. But because you can't sing those songs and be grumpy and downtrodden, at least not while you're singing them, right? It lifts your spirits. They exude joy and they touch on that inner yearning in each of us to really know that joy in our lives all the time. They renew a spirit of Christmas that is a spirit of remarkable love, unbounded joy, astonishing peace, immeasurable hope. Who doesn't need that on a regular basis? I know I do. Renewal and new are two different things. It makes me think of when I was young. My mom would save my sister's clothes. I had 3 older sisters, one who's sitting in the back there, so she'll remember this. She would save the clothes to pass down to the next child, right? I was the last one in the family. Yeah, that's right. I got all the hand-me-downs. It was a renewal of the clothes, and I got them. But there was nothing like the times when I would have an opportunity to go out with Mom, and I would get to pick out something new, brand new. Something new is filled with promise. In our passage, the promise of new is not a remembering or a reestablishing or a reframing or a retelling or putting on a hand-me-down a bit worn out. Our passage speaks of something new, completely new, different than what we have known. New, brand spanking new. And oh, the possibilities that lie within that. Psalm 98 speaks of this new song that every being, human and more than human, the sea, the river, did you hear that in that the river clapping hands? I love to think about that image. The mountains singing and all that dwell in and on them, lifted up in praise, songs of praise to God for all of God's good works and wonders, for God's steadfast love. And that new song reveals a new heaven and a new earth, as we heard in Isaiah. A new reality that shouts of harmony and justice and joy. A new truth that connects us intimately with God. God's promise. God promises to do a new thing. And all of creation is to join together in singing a new song. And while that promise may seem as though it points to a distant future, in reality it points to what we have every capability to imagine now in this present moment. I know it doesn't seem that way, but it is a matter of looking at where God dwells. God is not speaking of a new celestial creation beyond this physical place that we call home, but these words point to a new relationship that is a spiritual creation in our souls. A new heaven and a new earth that are one in harmony and peace across all of creation, all beings, all peoples. Is that not what we yearn for every day? Now, our Christian faith most often finds us looking outside ourselves for evidence of God. We practice rituals of our faith as physical reminders of God's presence in our midst. Our prayers are filled with words of praise and confession, with a promise we'll try to do better as we move forward and be more Christ-like in our actions. And more often than not, our prayers are filled with supplication, earnestly asking God for a host of things to make our lives and someone else's lives better. We sing new songs and old ones and listen to someone give their thoughts, like myself, on the passage that we've heard that morning. And that is all well and good. We treasure that, and we treasure these moments here. But what is most important is the deeper spiritual connection, the soil of the heart connection, in which God dwells within us. Our practices of faith, our outward signs of what we say we believe, are made richer and more complete when we come into communion with God in our hearts and within our souls, that we become one breath with God. Imagine that. Isaiah says it or God's words in Isaiah, before they call, I will answer, God says. While they are still speaking, I will hear. One breath with God. That newness that God is defining for the people is a relationship of spirit that connects us to God and brings us in harmony with all of creation and all people. Lately, I've been reading a book called Holy Envy by Episcopal priest, professor of religion, and author Barbara Brown Taylor. You may have read something of her in the past. She shares her experience while teaching World Religions 101 in college course to her students in Piedmont College. And she writes from a place within her Christian faith in which she is ordained, but opens us up to appreciate the practices of faith throughout the world, other faiths that have their own unique understanding of God. But she doesn't leave us, the reader, or her students there in simple observation mode to compare ourselves against these other faiths, but invites all of us to see how interconnected we truly are. She titled her book Holy Envy because she witnesses beauty and meaningful and reverent practices in other faiths that she deeply admires and respects. And it doesn't diminish her Christian faith, but brings it to a richer sense of her relationship with God. She shares a story of, I'm going to probably not say his name right, but I'm going to try, Raymond Paniker, who was a scholar of religion. He was a Catholic priest. He was born in Spain to a Catholic mother and a Hindu father. He spent a good deal of his time thinking about what it might mean of Christians to focus more on contributing to the world's faith instead of, in some perspectives, wanting to dominate it. He used an analogy of the world's great rivers, the Jordan, the Tiber, and the Ganges. He said, all nourish the lives of those who dwell along their banks. And none of these, he goes on, none of these rivers meet on earth, though they do meet in the heavens, where water from each of them condenses into clouds that rain down on all the mortals of the earth. In the same way, he said, the religions of the world remain distinct, but they meet once transformed into vapor, once metamorphosed into spirit. And it is that spirit connection that makes all the difference. That spirit connection that unites us together. At a visit to an Islamic mosque with her students, Taylor recalls the words of the imam to her students saying, our deepest desire is not that you become Muslim, but that you become the best Christian, the best Jew, the best person that you can be. Could that be the reality of the new heaven and the new earth that God speaks of? Where all of creation, human and more than human, join the mountains in singing God's praises, uniting with the rivers and clapping our hands, where the wolf and the lamb will feed together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox, and the dust will be the serpent's food. Neither will they harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, God says. Could that be the new heaven and the new earth that God speaks of, not in terms of future hope, but in today's reality? I believe it is, when we choose to join with God in creating that.